everybody. This is Mike here from What's Up Watchtower. Welcome to another episode. And as you can see, I'm here by myself today, but we have a very special interview. And today we're going to be interviewing a brother named Jake, who is a former elder in my local area. And we're going to be talking to him about his story and how the Jehovah's Witness organization has affected him throughout his life. So, without further ado, Jake, how are you doing?
Very well, Mike, thank you.
Very good. Just to explain to everyone here that's kind of watching this, Jake is off camera specifically because Jake has never been disfellowshipped. Jake has never been disassociated. Jake has successfully faded from the organization and still has many contacts and knows many people in the organization. So we're protecting his identity today for that specific purpose, and just don't want him to have to suffer any unnecessary grief for doing this. So I think it's important. Let's just kind of get started. You know, I know your story a little bit from talking to you, so let's just kind of share with everyone. You weren't raised as a Jehovah's Witness, so let's kind of hear your story as you're growing up and how that kind of happened.
Yeah, I grew up in what the witnesses call a worldly family, and up to the age of 18, you know, when I finished my high school, I didn't know anything about the organization. The way I found out was that there was a lady, before I was able to buy a car, that drove a little bus and took me to school, you know, and she was a witness. And basically she is the one that introduced me to the truth. She gave me the blue book, The Truth That Leads to Eternal Life. Mm-hmm. I read it, and needless to say, I was convinced 100% that this is what I was looking for.
How old were you at that time?
I was 18, because I graduated in 1976, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at that time, the Truth book was fairly new. Mm-hmm. That had come out, I think, in the late 60s. So we know that you came into the truth as almost an adult on your own, but what sacrifices did you have to make that decision to join the Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, at that time in my life, I was, you know, did sports pretty well. I performed very well in baseball and in football. Got scholarships for football, was offered a nice amount of money to play Major League Baseball. And once I started, you know, reading the book and then, you know, getting a Bible study, I had to make a choice. And needless to say, I made the wrong choice because I just let it all go.
Were you pressured into making that decision at that age?
No, I wasn't at all. That was totally on me. And, you know, it's just one of those things that at the time, like I said, no question in my mind, I was doing the right thing for me.
Did you experience the kind of love bombing that we see when people come from the world, they come into the organization, and it's like everybody is just loving when they first meet them? Did that have an effect on your decision to become a Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah, I remember the first time, or the first you know, few times that I started going, it seemed like there was always a crowd, you know, 5, 8 witnesses around you wanting to talk to you and you know, wanting to just tell you that you had done the right thing. And you know, once I explained to them my experience and what I had gone through at that time, so it was pretty encouraging for me. I mean, you're talking about an 18-year-old kid. Really, when you're 18, you're really like a kid in a way. But I was, again, it was just something that I was so convinced that I was doing the right thing.
So, after you first became a Jehovah's Witness, when you were new in the congregation, how did that make you feel? Did you feel reassured that you had done the right thing once you had become a Jehovah's Witness and kind of given up the other part of your life?
Yeah, I would say yes, for the most part in the beginning, no question about it. I started in the Spanish-speaking congregation, so they are a lot of them are just very, very close with families, and they kind of like that. So, yeah, I really, I wouldn't say I felt totally at home, but I felt pretty comfortable. I mean, honestly, they made me feel pretty comfortable.
And how did you kind of progress in the organization? Because like you said, you were 18, you hadn't had any real spiritual or religious background that was strong up to that point. So how was it that you began to progress in the organization?
Well, after, of course, I read the book, and like I said, went to the meetings a few times. I was assigned a person that I truly, dearly loved as a father, to be honest with you. And he started to give me study. And, basically, I had a lot of questions, of course. He was very honest, but, at the same time, being that I was young, he didn't want to really make me stumble, because at the time that I started going, you have to understand, the 1975 situation was just, that was the topic of conversation. It all came to pass, really, practically. So I did ask about that, and he said, no, they really didn't flat out say it. He told me, but they didn't say it like that, but they really indicated that, yeah, that was a special year, and that something was going to happen in that year. And he even mentioned to me, and which I found out later, there are a lot of brothers at that time, they so convinced that the end was coming that they maxed their credit cards. They basically just, the mentality of the end is coming, so why should I be, responsible? I'm just going to, spend everything I can, and that was going on at the time when I started.
Wow, we've heard stories about that kind of thing, but you actually knew people who did this.
Yes, and again, the person that gave me study, he says, he warned me, he says, you might encounter this situation, because, I'm talking about a hot topic at that point.
So, we're following your life pattern now. When you were still young, you were actually, had become a ministerial servant.
Yeah, right. I got baptized in the late 70s, and 3 years after being baptized, I was appointed a ministerial servant, if I remember correctly. And after that, not very long after that, I would say about approximately maybe 4 years, I was appointed elder at a pretty young age at the time.
Did you notice that people had left the congregation after 1975? Was there a little bit of a shortage of brothers at that time?
I didn't really look into that at all. I just heard the murmur going. I just heard it, and of course, I discussed it with other brothers, and they say, look, counseling, it's always good. These things, you just have to leave it in Jehovah's hands. He'll handle the situation. Don't worry. It was perhaps a miscalculation on the society's part, blah, blah, blah. They really didn't want to get me in deep in that conversation, but I always didn't find it right. It just, from what I was hearing, it didn't sound right to me at all.
Very interesting, because I didn't realize that was the time period in which you were baptized and stuff. So nobody really came forward with you forthrightly and talked about the prophecies that were in 1975, and because you were baptized a little later, that you just kind of missed that. Is that right?
Yeah. Again, the brother that gave me study, the Bible study, he basically explained, he didn't, what's the wording that we always use, he didn't really want to make me, let's just say, stumble. So he was very careful, and he didn't really come out and say, "Look, they said it, that's it." He said, "I think that it was a miscalculation on their part. Maybe being looking forward to the end, and all these things that were happening." They just indicated it. They really indicated it, because later on I read publications that clearly said that yes, that was the time. It was going to happen no matter what. So then I knew that that something didn't sound right.
So right now we're at the point where you are a ministerial servant. Mm-hmm. You have been a ministerial servant. You've been appointed as a ministerial servant after only just a very short time in the organization. What were your responsibilities like as a ministerial servant at that time?
Well, at that time, really, there was a lot of work to be done. Just like, you kind of like have to prove yourself that that's the way I thought about it. You have to prove yourself that you appreciate your privilege. And I was given quite a bit of responsibilities, basically all at once. So I learned pretty quickly, not the total functions, but the way a congregation really functions. So I was handed a lot.
How old were you at that time?
That time I was probably 21 years old.
And how long was it before you were appointed an elder? What age were you when you were appointed an elder? Again,
it happened pretty quickly. I was 24. It was 3 years after again. So at the age of 24, I was already appointed an elder at a pretty young age.
What kind of experiences did you... I guess my question to you is, we're always told that the congregations are united. People that are a member of the Jehovah's Witness organization are united worldwide. The same beliefs, the same opinions, the same thought processes. What did you notice in the congregation once you became an elder? Did you truly see unity across the board?
At the beginning, I really wasn't focused in on that, because I wasn't. The unity as far as when you get appointed elder, the brothers and sisters, they just view you differently in a way that it's, to me, I didn't really like that much, meaning that I didn't want to be treated differently. I just wanted to be one of them. But somehow, some way, I was perceiving that there was a group here, a group here, and a group there. There was some unity, but this 100% stuff, no, absolutely not.
Well, I think the elders would truly have the most unique perspective on that, because any type of disagreement within the congregation is usually brought to the body of the elders' attention. So as an elder, and I'm not talking about judicial committees, but what type of things were going on in the congregations at the time that would show that not everyone is as unified as the picture that they would paint for you?
One thing that really struck me right away, Mike, is the problems that married couples were constantly having. And, that kind of gave me pause a little bit, because I wasn't expecting that to be that much. Of course, you know that after you're an elder, because then you might be assigned to help a couple, or talk to them perhaps with another elder, but not necessarily a judicial committee. And I got to tell you, on a year's time, I could have maybe talked to 8, maybe 10 or more couples that were having problems in their marriage. And of course, the more you experience things and the more you move on, you know that a lot of those situations were because they were practically, I don't want to use the word forced, but it was very close, because for every brother, let's say, there might be 10 or 15 sisters. They couldn't go anywhere to find a partner. That's what I'm trying to say. So there was a lot of no good communication, so I couldn't understand exactly why that was. I figured it out later, of course, but if I had to pick one thing, the marriage situation, especially in the area that I was, pretty bad, really bad.
Was that an uncomfortable situation for you, being 24 years old and offering counsel to people who were married for maybe even longer, maybe people who were older than you? Was that putting you in a little bit of a weird situation at the time?
Yeah, it does, because a lot of these married brothers had been in the truth longer than I had in some cases, believe it or not, but the big percentage was young people. So, they were either close to my age or less. So those cases I didn't feel that bad, but you even had couples that had been married for quite a few years, and they were having difficulties that blew my mind. I mean, there was one case that I remember really, shook me up. Again, it's being young, being appointed, and not really knowing a lot of the stuff as you learn as you go by. And there was a pretty mid-aged couple that they were having domestic violence issues. And I'm like saying, wow, really? In Jehovah's organization? So again, it's progressive. I'm not going to say at the age of 24, I had all these cases come at me. But again, 24, 25, as years passed, it became like well, who is the next couple that I'm going to talk to now, Did you start feeling like a marriage counselor at some point? I got to tell you, it's not a comfortable situation because, again, a lot of at least I tried to be as close to all the brothers and sisters as I could, be friendly with them. And of course, you build certain friendships with, not that you're putting others aside, but it's personality things. You get along better with certain personalities that, like the one you have, and right away you have a nice connection there. So especially in those cases that I kind of had a pretty nice relationship with the couple, it was very uncomfortable, to say the least. But it had to be done. It's Jehovah's house. I had to do it. Yeah, I think just to explain here my kind of thought process on that is, as a young person, 24 years old, you're automatically kind of thrust into a position not only of authority, where other people in the congregation would listen to what you had said to them, or at least were supposed to. You have now seen, after only being a Jehovah's Witness for 6-7 years at this point, a lot of domestic and marital problems in the congregation. I guess you realized at that point, sure, everyone has problems. Anyone who's ever been married for any length of time, you've had problems. But needless to say, you were probably a little shocked at the amount of problems in the congregation. Yeah. Not at all. I mean, you could have expected to have certain problems in the congregation just because you're dealing with human men and women. Yes. But the amount of problems and the serious nature of some of the problems was shocking. Yes. And again, I can only speak, because it wouldn't be fair to me to just say generalize, but at that time, and I can only speak for that congregation that I was in, that were having these issues over and over again. There was a lot of young people in that congregation, and very, very nice couples. I got to know them, like I said, pretty well. But it was shocking to me, and as of course you progress in the organization, you understand that why these things happen, because you're basically you might be getting married to someone just because they're in the truth, but not necessarily because you have chemistry with that person, or because you truly want to live the rest of your life with that person. You just let me put it to you this way: in a lot of the conversations, did come out, they basically said they just wanted an out from their house. That they really did not understand what they were getting to, and that their partner was just not what they were looking for. They just wanted to get out of the house.
So, now that you're an elder and you've been dealing with handling problems in the congregation and meeting with different people, and this is now your job, this is now your level of responsibility in the congregation. I think it's important that people realize as well that as you become an elder in the congregation, the amount of information that you know about what's going on, not just in people's lives in the congregation like you mentioned, but the amount of information that you know that comes directly from Bethel, directly from Watchtower headquarters. And I wanted to ask you, because everyone who's ever been a Jehovah's Witness knows that Watchtower Bible and Tract Society sends letters to the bodies of elders and letters to the congregations constantly, updates, information. And I think it's interesting to ask, because many people don't realize this, the elders receive a lot of letters. Is all of that information shared with the congregation?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, some are specific, when the letter states to all congregations, those usually got read. But there were specific letters to the body of elders, blah, blah, blah. And it was confidential things that the brothers didn't have access to and didn't know about.
Would it be safe to say that the average publisher in the congregation has no real idea as to all the information that the body of elders gets, that they would be surprised if they knew all of the extra information that was coming in that they were not privy to?
Absolutely. I agree with that. There were things that were just not shared with the congregation. And I also have to say, to be truthful, that this fairy tale, that it remains confidential, even letters to the body of elders. I knew elders that talked about what was in those letters, and the letters specifically say, do not share this with the brothers. But this mentality, this fairy tale thing that elders wouldn't talk, some cases with their wives about it, not true. It went out, even though it wasn't technically not supposed to. I found cases that did go out.
So you found that sometimes confidential matters were talked about between elders, maybe their wives, maybe a small group of people knew about the other people in the congregation.
Oh yeah, no question in my mind. No question.
Wow. So how does that affect the way you viewed the congregation as a whole? Did you start feeling differently about any of that at that time, or were you just thinking this is just the process, we're imperfect humans, we're just part of this organization, let's do it?
Yeah, basically the same mentality that you're fed throughout the years. Jehovah's going to take care of things. He's going to see that whatever issues are here, Jesus is in charge of the congregation, so things do happen. I must admit that I was kind of like surprised in a way. I mean, I know that, imperfect human beings, you're not going to get perfection, but what got to me was the volume of situations that happened. Again, I can speak to that congregation that I was in.
Right.
I don't want to, I know others that, I knew a lot of others that had their own issues, but I wouldn't want to speak where I was.
So, as an elder, you had to have served on judicial committees. And I want to ask you about a specific instance, a judicial committee meeting that really made you stop and pause. I guess I would say maybe this is one of the first times in your life as being an elder that made you really kind of wake up.
Yeah, this is painful, even after so many years, to even talk about it for me. I was, at the time that I was in this, it wasn't my first judicial committee, I was in other committees. But this was my first committee involving a child rape case. Let's call it a rape, because that wasn't molestation, that was rape. And even though I had read the letters and knew about the two witness situation, that you didn't have two witnesses, you basically, there really wasn't much you could do. At that time, it wasn't, you have to understand, at that time, it wasn't what it is today, that it is just so out there, so many cases, the Australian committee, on and on and on and on and on. So I was in a committee where a young, precious little girl, 8 years old, went to her mom after, I think she was 2 years. She finally developed the courage, and that is very rough on a child like that, to tell her mom. So of course, her mom, came to us, being that she's a child, for crying out loud, not just a minor, a child, and explained to us what had happened, that Brother X had done to her. And when the committee started, honestly, maybe it's because I hadn't been in one before, but even before I was a Jehovah's Witness, I am a person that just reacts very strongly when I see an injustice being committed, or in this case, a crime, that I just, blew a gasket, per se, and then I'll explain why. I knew also that I had watched certain, specials of child molestation at the time, Dateline, all these, that they basically, because a lot of the other religions, Catholics or whatever, they were having issues with all this, and basically professionals came on, and they were saying, you cannot have the victim be with the accuser. You have to question them separately. I mean, these are people that they are prepared mentally, every way possible to handle, in this case, a child. So, that was in the back of my mind. I said, okay, it was always there. But the young girl was in, and the brother was also in, a 6-foot guy, strong like a tree. And she had to be in there with this guy. And as she progressed, explaining to us, and she was shaking and crying, and numerous times I told her, honey, it's going to be okay, all right? It's going to be over pretty soon. It's going to be okay. Just tell us what you know and what happened. And again, the brother was there too, which is the incredible ignorance of this policy. And she gave a lot of details on what had done. And I'm not going to get into the details, but I can just tell you rape was committed.
To the point that you were positive that what this young girl was telling you was true.
Oh, absolutely. I had no doubts in my mind. Of course, being an elder, you're supposed to not show partiality. But this is a child, okay? You're talking about a child. They do not give you those details. They don't make that stuff up. They just don't. And professionals tell you this. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was so incredibly brave of her to even take that step. And again, at the time, like I told you, it wasn't as open as it is today. You heard of cases, but it wasn't like it's been discovered. So she just told us what she had to tell us, and I basically, the other two elders apparently didn't want to say anything else. But I just said, I just cannot live with myself if I don't do this, because I knew better. I brought her close to me and I said, her mother's there, and I said, honey, look at me. I want you to understand when you walk out that door that I made a point to say me because I knew that something was going to hit me after all this was over. I said, I want you to know that the brother that you're looking at here, believes you 100% in what you said. I don't think that you lied, okay? I don't think that you made this stuff up. I believe you 100%. I need you to believe that, okay? And I'm telling you truthfully that I believe you, okay? That's important for you to understand. And of course she was crying. I gave her a little hug. And then at that point I was just ready to explode. Ready to explode. So inside of me, seeing that injustice, seeing that crime, I said, you know what? I don't care what happens here. I'm going to take my elder's hat off right now, and I'm going to prosecute this SOB in this room here. So I went at him. I just, no scriptures. I just went at him. I said, I want you to explain to us here, okay? You need to explain, why would she make that stuff up? Answer that question. Why would she make that stuff up? That crime up? Why? Do you know that, I said, I'm not going to judge you because only you and Jehovah know that this particular case here, I have my own, I believe the girl, okay? So let's just make that clear. It was my turn to talk. And again, I knew that I was going to get a backlash with that. I said, but you, a 6-foot monster, well built, that you did that to a child? Do you know how the law punishes you by that? Minimum of 10 years in jail? He couldn't really, he said, well, I don't know. I can't. He said, a child that age? You really want us to believe that she just made all this stuff up to create this situation, to be in here shaking and crying? So I said, I'm sorry, I have a problem with what you're saying that she did. She hardly ever knew you. It's not like you were a member of the family, even though a lot of these things do happen within the family. Not in this case. Mm-hmm. You were just a brother in the congregation. So I just attacked him. I prosecuted him. In my mind, I was like a prosecutor. I went at him I really just went at him and basically, told him, listen, I said, if you did this, you're going to do it again, okay? You're going to do it again, and at some point, you're going to get caught, okay? If you did this, I knew that he had done it. Mm-hmm. I had no question that in my mind. I believed the little girl 100%. So, I just went at him so hard. I'm just giving you the meat and potatoes, but I told him a lot of it to the point that, in my mind, I had to do it. Mm-hmm. I had to do it because I knew the other two weren't going to do it. So like I told you, there would be backlash. After everybody was gone, the other two elders started counseling me and going after me and saying that, we as elders cannot show that partiality. And what you did here was wrong.
I think it's maybe important to interject here at this time, simply because I know a little bit of the details of the story, that at that time, the other two elders who were in that judicial group with you were younger brothers with no children.
That is correct. I had two children, two small little kids at that time. I had two little kids, so I really, as I kept watching this little girl, I kept saying, this could be one of my kids here. And so they went on the attack, telling me that I showed partiality and the whole 9 yards. So I asked of them, can you take your elder's hat off for 5 minutes? That's all I asked of you, 5 minutes. I said, neither one of you is authorized to tell me, okay, how you were would feel if that happened to your child. Because you know why? Neither one of you have children. Okay? But that shouldn't even be an excuse, because again, a crime was committed here. The police need to be called. Okay? The police need to be called. I don't remember verbatim the scripture, chapter and verse, but the Apostle Paul mentioned, and I brought the scripture up to them, that the authorities, the secular authorities, were placed in place by God. They were placed there by God for your protection. And, they had a role. They protected us. They played a role in our daily lives. So I said, I see no biblical violation here. This is something that the authorities should know. It's their responsibility. They have the right to know. And they are the ones that are equipped to help in cases like this, especially little kids.
And were the police ever informed?
The mother came to me about 2 weeks after all that happened. And at that point, I just want to make it clear, even though it didn't happen right away, of course, at that point, after that experience as an elder, I knew that I said, this is it. I can't, if this is the way this is going to be with these cases and this two witness thing, at that point I knew that my days were numbered.
And how long had you been an elder at the point that this particular case was brought to you?
I would say probably maybe 12 years, 13 years as an elder, or less.
So at that point, you're basically about 18 years or so as a Jehovah's Witness. So you're a Jehovah's Witness at this point with a lot of experience in the organization, a lot of history in the organization. You're married and you have children and you're raising your family in the organization. And so I think for a lot of people, I just want to make this really clear. A faithful elder who has been serving in your congregation for over a decade, counseling and offering guidance to the members of the congregation, sees how the processes and the way the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society wants things to be handled in this particular kind of case, and it shocked you enough to make you rethink everything.
Yes, and again, I'm not going to say that I wasn't aware of the two witness, policy that this cult has, but let me tell you something. It's very, very totally different when you just read. Well, this. When you're inside a committee and you see a child crying, and I'm telling you, it's totally different. Totally different. So, you had asked what I had done after that. I said 2 weeks after that, her mom came to me directly because I guess she appreciated what I told her daughter, which in my opinion I should have done more. I should have just called the police myself, but that's neither here or there now. She said that she was leaving the congregation and that what advice would I have for her as far as the situation. I said, are you asking me this to give you my opinion? Do you want me to talk to you as a parent? Do you want me to talk to you as an elder? How do you want me to talk to you about this? Because I can go any way you want. I said, she's told me, talk to me as a father. I said, as a father, the minute you walk out of here, go to the nearest police station and report this incident immediately. As an elder, I would not discourage you from not going to the police. I wouldn't be so go, but I knew that. I was indicating to her, look, you got the green light, just go.
So, did the police get involved with the case?
To be perfectly honest with you, after this incident, three months or so, I left that particular congregation. I don't know. If I were to guess, I definitely think she went, because she looked pretty determined that day. She might have changed her mind, who knows. But what she heard in that committee, at least coming out of my mouth, was, I think, kind of convincing to her that she needed to do something else, that this could not stay like this. So I can't answer that question truthfully. I hope she did. Let's put it that way.
Whatever happened with the perpetrator of the crime, the brother who was in the congregation?
Naturally, he left too. He left to another congregation to probably do the same thing over there. And I insisted that since I was part of that committee, I said, I told the elders, I insist that specific information be given to the congregation of what this man did here. Because I'm not going to sign the letter if that is not in there. So I kind of like, they kind of like wanted just to briefly just, well, this brother has had some problems with children, but I said, no, I want specifics. The age of that little girl, what he did to her. He raped her. Let's not beat around the bush. He raped her. So yeah, the letter went to that congregation. I don't know how serious that congregation takes it, because as you have seen in the Australian Commission, there's just a cover-up. Yeah. But again, I emphasize, at that time, it wasn't like it is today.
Right.
So that's why, in a way, it was my first child molestation case that I was in. And at that point, I said, no.
So, would you say that dealing with that case was a pivotal moment in your history?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said before, I think that is what triggered and really started to really open my eyes. Because like I say, I have a passionate reaction when it comes to seeing an injustice being committed, especially against a child. I just, can't control myself in the sense that I gotta tell you, if I was not an elder at that time, and I thought at that moment that I would be not doing anything wrong, I don't even know what I would have been capable of doing to that guy. And if it were my child that he did it to, listen, right there in the moment, I say, here, you can take all my here, I don't care. But I would have, I don't want to elaborate on what I think I would have done.
Oh boy, so I know that experience had to have taken a lot out of you. And after that, how did you, obviously, it's something you thought about after that. Something like that doesn't just leave your mind when the case is over or when they move to a different congregation. So what was kind of the long-term result of what that case did to you?
To the point, Mike, that it's been quite a few years since this happened. There's not a day that goes by that I don't have the face of that little girl. When I was talking to her, how she was crying. I see it every day. And to the point that I have had mental health help for a long, long time now. And I don't intend to stop it because, there were times, I'm not ashamed to say it, I'm not the macho type. There were times, and again, I didn't want to affect my family in that way. I just kind of kept it inside. But when I was alone in the house, I would just, go down on my knees and start crying and crying and crying for a while. And then after that, kind of indicated I didn't give her the details of that at that time, of course, but I knew that I needed help, and I went for the help. I got the help, and it has helped. I mean, there is no magic pill that nobody can give you or give me or whatever that's going to say, hey, listen, take this, you're going to forget it, you're not going to see her face. No. It's just one of those things that, even though I did what I did, I can't go back, I can't rewind it and do it all over again in a way. But it's been with me, and it will remain for me until my dying days. I mean, it's just horrible. No words that I could express to you will even come close to what you feel when you see a child, that being done to a child. So, mentally, I'm hanging in there. I have my days, of course, but it won't go away.
So, after that experience with having to deal with that committee, and basically nobody won in that situation. Everybody is on the losing end, including you. So you've dealt with this situation, and it's really made you think about everything. So what was the next step?
The next step, again, I discussed with my wife. I never mentioned at all what I had gone through and what had happened. I just didn't want to do it at the time. So I kind of told her, listen, I think we need a change. How do you feel about it? So, we both agreed. We moved to a different city. And I was there in another congregation, of course, moved to another congregation. Was there, I would say, for approximately 3 or 4 years in the congregation that I went to in the new city. And the situation popped up again. And again, now as years have progressed, more information, not the way it is now, but you keep hearing more specials about, molestation, blah, blah, blah. And so it was beginning to pick up, but not to the point that we're at now. So it so happened that in that congregation, after being there about 2 years or so, a molestation case popped up again. And the body of elders got together. They wanted to form a committee. And before they even mentioned my name, I said, I want to disqualify myself. Don't even consider me for this. I have been through one, and that is more than enough. And I made it specific. Until this two-witness thing either gets adjusted or changes, I cannot go in there with a clear conscience and just, agree with it, because I don't. And I don't know, how you guys feel about what I'm saying. Of course, it didn't go through, well, but I said it.
How did the elders take that? How did the rest of the group of the body of elders perceive you at that point? Were they giving you any trouble about that?
Not trouble, but I noticed that after that, and at that point even, that night that we had that meeting, they kind of said, you're kind of indicating like you're not having faith in the arrangement of the organization, the way they do things. I said, no, that's not it at all. I just know, and I can clearly identify when a crime has been committed, and I feel like I, told the other body of elders where I came from, that crimes have to be reported to the police. They have a right to that information. That's why Paul again said that those authorities were put there to help us. They weren't put there as our enemies. They help us. I said, for crying out loud, we called the police and it happened. We called the police not too long ago because somebody threw a bottle and hit one of our windows here. You're going to compare calling the police for that and not calling for a child being raped. I said, look, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I just cannot make the connection at all. I mean, I would want to call the police immediately. I said, for two reasons: a crime, and for that child to get immediate help from professionals that can give the help. We're not equipped for that. We're just not.
So what did that experience do to your faith?
My faith was slowly but surely, and at this time it had, it sped up even a little more. It was dying. It was on life support. Let's put it that way. I just kept saying, how can God allow this to go on? This incredible injustice with children. And when you look, because I always try to look for biblical passages to throw at them, to the other ones that didn't agree. And I said, remember how Jesus treated, according to the scripture, how he treated children, how he was with children? I tell you, I have a hard time believing that if Jesus was here in the flesh and he saw the injustice that was committed against a child like this, I don't think he would agree with it. And then, of course, you get to that. Well, Jehovah appointed Jesus. He takes care of the congregation. The elders are on his right hand, and eventually things get corrected. I said, well, that might be the case, but you're talking about a crime. And I just kept bringing it back to that. This is a crime. And, you call the police, we call the police. Anytime there's, not, and again, compared to this, is for any weird behavior that we see in our neighborhood or whatever, this is a crime. And again, and that's another point I mentioned to the committee over there with the young little girl. I said, do you understand that this guy is going to walk out of here now? And let's just say he never goes to a Kingdom Hall again. Mm-hmm. All right? He's still in a neighborhood somewhere that children are. And the protection from the authority comes that they are put in a database for everyone to know that so-and-so is a child rapist or molester or whatever. So there's another reason why it is critical to, I saw this, what everyone is talking about today at that time. And look, I'm not, by no means, this is not about me at all. This for me is for parents that are out there today, children that perhaps are going through this. Do not, I can't emphasize this enough, do not go to the elders with a problem like this. Go directly to the police. Mm-hmm. And don't buy into, don't bring Jehovah's name through the mud, blah, blah, blah. We know all the sayings. Come on. But if I can just help one family with this that I'm doing here today, it's okay by me. But I felt that I had to do it.
Yeah, important. Well, you had an opportunity kind of shortly thereafter to make an escape.
Yes.
What happened?
What happened is I got struck with a very, very serious illness. It was, needless to say, horrible. The recovery took quite a while. I'm talking about from, the treatments and what have you, and, the recovery and all that. It was about 5 or 6 years before I was even able to really, function normally. Not really normal anymore, but to be able to just move around was a while. So during that time, of course, in the beginning, a lot of the brothers were coming over, wanting to, and basically, I was just thinking in my mind, how can I do this? I just didn't know. But I said, you know what? I'm going to use this as an outlet. And so I started insisting. I told my wife that I did not want any more visitors, that I did not want any more phone calls, that I could not just, I couldn't handle it, which in a way was true, but not totally true. Because I mean, I could have, answered a call for 2 minutes or 3 minutes. I mean, come on. But I said, this might be a way. And so time passed, and they, I guess, honored my request, and that's the way I started fading.
Yeah, so you saw the illness as a way to first step down from the body of elders. You resigned your post, I guess you would say. You stepped down voluntarily.
Yes.
You were not removed as an elder. You were not under any kind of sanctions or punishment or anything. You, in complete good standing, stepped down of your own volition.
Yeah.
And then after that, knowing that you were ill, you decided to take a little time for yourself, step away, and you've gradually faded from the organization and have never been disfellowshipped, have never been disciplined, have not disassociated yourself. So that's just for everyone watching. This is the reason that Jake is off camera, because despite his many years of experience and all the things that he's gone through, he's still in good standing in the organization. So we definitely do not want to show his identity for that purpose alone. But I think it's interesting because you saw the opportunity, you took it, and now you've been successfully kind of faded from the organization for just over a decade or so.
Yeah, maybe a little less, but more or less, yeah.
So now that you're kind of on the other side, what things that you see with the organization now surprise you the most about where it was maybe a decade ago?
Yeah, I got to say, and maybe it's because it was an issue that hit me hard in my heart with that that little girl. I am just not, I wouldn't say amazed. I mean, after a while you know that it's going on, but I just am stunned at everything that it's come out so freely, so clearly. There is nothing that the Watchtower can do to stop it. The internet, today's technology, you can no longer fool people. You can say what you want. The minute you walk out that door, that person is going to go on the internet, go on Google, and just verify if what you're saying is true or not. So all these cases coming out, the Australian Commission, you name it, it just goes on and on and on. You go into YouTube and you see so many people just being honest. They're not bad people. They just don't agree with, or don't like being lied to. And it's like a snowball, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And in my opinion, this will go down. This cult will go down, like others have. They'll go down.
Yeah, I think what you just said is super important. Also, it's the fact that you, after having been on the inside of the organization in every facet almost, as a publisher, as a ministerial servant, as an elder, so throughout the congregation you had many facets of responsibility, and after the case that you dealt with really shook your faith to the core. And now, after having been outside for a while, I'm just trying to summarize, it seems like you can very clearly now see so many points of contention with the organization, things that are wrong or false that you maybe didn't notice before when you were in. And the case that you had with the judicial committee was really just what made it all kind of stand out to you. Since you've kind of come to the conclusions about the organization that it just couldn't have God's blessing and the way things are going, did you do additional research to kind of come to some other conclusions about the organization, or is just this your personal experiences that we're dwelling on?
No, I don't remember at what point, but I started, going to the internet, going, to different websites, hearing the experiences, even, seeing some elders coming out, having individuals that, you see on YouTube, they have contacts inside of Bethel that are sending them information that the congregation still hasn't received, and those things are being read. That's why I tell you, the destruction is coming from within. It's not a situation, it can't be stopped. And they have people in there that are not with them. They think, but they just don't know who it is.
Right.
But there's enough people. And not only that, they have been hiding a lot of things for a very long time. And in my opinion, this is my own personal opinion, the thing that I think, especially in this country, and it's also happening, of course, in Europe, that I think will really, one day we're going to wake up and we're going to go, huh? Is the 5013C tax exempt that they have as nonprofit. That is going to be the downfall. I remember a story. I don't know if you probably do, and the majority of people listening probably do. Al Capone. Al Capone, he was in the 30s or 40s. For many years, the United States government was after this individual. They would get him on something, but he'd get out after 6 months, and this went on for years. But one day, the government was getting all their ducks in order, and finally, how they nailed Al Capone was he was evading paying taxes, and they nailed him to the cross at that point. And from what I remember in my history, he went to Alcatraz, a prison that was famous. There's a movie about it too. And he was there for about 10 years, and I think after 11 years he died. He got really ill and died. But it just shows you that you think, you're going to get away, with one day, that's all it takes. One day. And it's just all it's not going to be a slow process, in my opinion. They're just going to show up one day, and they're going to say, you, come with me. Yeah. You're all under arrest.
We've seen instances like that happen with other major investigations in the news, crime families and stuff. They get taken down on racketeering charges and fraud charges and money laundering. It's all financial stuff. It's their records that get them busted.
Of course. And all this stuff that has come out about the organization, all these investments that they're doing under the table, and a lot of the stuff that they're hiding from, the government, they're on it. I think everybody sees it. They're running scared. They are running scared. And when you dedicate a whole district convention on shunning, instead of spreading the good news and, just shunning, basically shunning, they're running scared. And they don't want people to talk to, ex-JWs that have gone out, because they know in a matter of seconds they're probably, the hardcore ones, I don't think they're ever going to change. But as far as the young people, up to 30 or what, you can't fool them. They know exactly what's going on.
Won't be a younger generation in the organization. It will be mostly older ones.
The older folks, and I kind of feel bad for them. This is what they've done all their life, and for them to change or take a drastic measure like this would be tough. So to me, I feel bad for the older folks, and they're probably just going to stay. Even if they see something happen, and the Watchtower closes down, and they'll probably say, "Oh, they're persecuting our people," and the near really has to be in now. They're taking them away. So this is not about. It is for everybody, but the hardcores who don't want to do it, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah,
there's really nothing you can do.
So yeah, that kind of leads into the very next thing I was going to ask you, and we kind of touched on that there, is where do you think the organization is heading? And you kind of touched on it so much there. Like, you really think we'll see the end of this organization in our lifetime, don't you?
Oh, yes. I mean, I'm not a prophet or anything like that.
Of course.
I think it'll be pretty soon. But the thing of it is, the government will not act until it has all its ducks in order. You know, they might have 50% of it ready, 60. When they have 100, then they make their move. They knock on your door, and they say, all of you are under arrest. Close this building down immediately. That's just the way it is. You're just going to, you hear it, you just, you know, things are being sent. That, I mean, things that I have heard, and you know, everybody sees clearly. You can see it on the internet. Information that is being sent of all these things, you know, happening to the IRS, to the government. They're on it. They're people just, you know, we just want it to happen, you know, right away because we see the injustice and all that. But in due time, it'll, and I don't think it'll be long. I think when you mess with the government's money, your days are numbered, buddy. They just are. They don't. That is one thing that you just don't do it. And looking back in history, you see it over and over and over again. But these guys think that you know, they're above, I don't know, the law, or that they are going to get away with it because Jehovah's on their side. I don't know what they think. It's crazy thinking anyway. Like Jeffrey Jackson, for example, I think the brothers know. He thought that he was going to get away with not testifying, right? Well, you know, they said, no, you're testifying. We're going to accommodate. You're going to put your hand on a Bible, and you are going to testify from your building, wherever it is you are. You're testifying. All right? You don't want it? You're going to testify. And did he testify? Yeah, he testified.
Yeah.
He testified.
I think I also believe we're gonna be seeing a lot of changes in the next few years in the organization. I think that maybe now is a good time to mention this, that as we progress in the future, there are gonna be more and more people leaving the organization. And for those who are watching the video, those who are current Jehovah's Witnesses, those who are fading, I think it's really important for you to realize, just like with Jake that I'm sitting here with, Jake was a former elder and he's no longer a Jehovah's Witness. But that does not mean he's not a good person. That doesn't mean he still doesn't care about helping people. It's the one misconception that I wish people could see past when it comes to what the Jehovah's Witness organization says about those who have left, calling them apostates, saying they're wicked, saying that they're insincere, saying that they're looking to draw followers after themselves. It's such a lie. And I wish that you all had a chance to meet Jake in person so you can see that this is another example of a person who cares about other people, to the point that when something happened that bothered his conscience in a judicial committee, it really stumbled him because he cares so much about justice being served and about people being protected and cared for. And it's the organization that is twisting things with their rules and regulations and protecting themselves. And I just feel like at some point people will realize that those who have left the organization, they're not bad people. They have left for a very specific reason. And I think that people need to know that. People need to know that you leave the organization, you're not a bad person. And especially when you've been in a position of great authority in the congregation, people will have trusted you. There's no reason for them to not trust you. You haven't done anything to them to break their trust. So I just think that's super important. And the other thing I think is important, and Jake and I talked about it a little bit earlier, is that this organization damages everyone. There is no way to come out of it unscathed. You know, as And as Jake said, he is daily thinks about the case, that one judicial case with an 8-year-old girl, and looking at her face and seeing her cry and being haunted by those thoughts, by those memories, and basically being ordered to handle the situation in a certain way, even though it conflicted with your conscience. And so I guess what I'm trying to say here too is even the most faithful elders and brothers in the congregation, by them following what the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society guidelines are in judicial cases and cases of child molestation and stuff, these brothers are hurt also. These brothers are forced to do something that violates their conscience. And what are their options? Well, they can either go along with the guidelines set before them by the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, or they can choose not to and suffer their own judicial situation. So it really is a bad situation. It really does not help or protect anyone. I don't think a lot of people who maybe watch these videos have ever thought about that, about what it does to the brothers on the other side of the table when they're told they must handle it in a certain way, even when they don't think it's right. And I think people need to realize that, because for the most part, I mean, we've heard stories about people dealing with elders and how it's been a problem. I would be willing to say that it is not the brothers that are the problem. It is the rules and regulations that they are forced to follow that are the problem. Because if people could just act like human beings and, be compassionate and loving without these hardline rules to protect an organization, we wouldn't be facing this situation. People would have a chance to do what they felt would be the right thing. So I just think it's super important that people know that, because as I get older and further away from the organization, I realize more and more how people themselves have been changed by the organization, and how they themselves aren't necessarily in complete control of all the decisions they make, because they have things to lose also. So, is there anything else you'd like to say, Jake, to kind of...
No, I agree 100% with all of you just said there. I just wanted to just add one more final thing. I know that there's a lot of people in right now in the organization that want to get out. And we have to understand and be compassionate and understand that not all cases are the same, because, for example, let's say a young person that relies on, living with their parents, they can't just walk away. It's not that easy. It's very tough. So, we're not here to pull you out and say, listen, you do it at your own pace. You know what you need to do. Every situation is different. But as soon as you can get out, I would recommend it. I mean, why do you want to, be continued being lied to? But again, I don't want to give the impression that you must know. Everybody know. I'm going to present a challenge to the Watchtower, and I know for a fact that they watch this video. What would you think would happen? Okay, I'm going to tell them. What would you think would happen if all of a sudden we get new light, right, that states, okay, you can have association, family association, and keep the family ties together, when a person is disfellowshipped? How many people do you think would just all of a sudden walk out the door?
Mass exodus.
Mass exodus. And don't you think the organization knows this? They know it. They absolutely, as it is right now, there's a lot. I mean, there's so many people, the ones we know and the ones that they're inside that want to get out. There's no way to give you a percentage, but I know there's a lot. There has to be.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I know we will. I'm going to just tell you guys right now. I think that at some point in time, we may have Jake back again because we didn't even begin to scratch the surface of his story. I just wanted to bring out a few very interesting points that I thought everyone should be aware of. And, Jake can be our resident elder advisor. He knows experience and has that experience in the organization. So I'd just like to say on behalf of myself, on behalf of Robin, on behalf of What's Up Watchtower, and everyone who's going to watch this video, thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your story. It's very important, and I know it's not easy for you to talk about some of the things that we talked about today, so I just wanted to say thank you very much, and I know definitely that people will benefit from the candor and the honesty and the openness that you've displayed here today. Yeah. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So with that being said, everybody, hope you enjoyed watching and have a great day. Take care. Bye.